Well, welcome to Talking with Jen, our first episode, and I'd love for you to welcome also today my special guest, Marco Massarutto. Marco is the co-founder and executive manager of Kunos. So they're down in Italy, nice sunny day, I hope as well, Marco?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
of
course we're inside.
With this weather. Yeah.
We're inside talking here at Talking with Jen, brought to you, of course, by Vroom. And it's great to have you on. Now, of course, a lot of people may not know who you are, but I thought we'd start with a little bit of introduction, which you can make yourself if you would, for us.
Yeah, I'm the co-founder, as you said, of Kunos Simulazioni. I founded the company with Stefano Casillo in 2005. And I'm, of course, a motorsport and car automotive enthusiast. And we started to work together with the aim to bring our vision of what a sim racing simulation could be. And through the years, we did it, actually, starting with Netcar Pro in 2005. And we are more popular and famous thanks to our most popular IP, that is Assetto Corsa. That is a racing simulation available for PC and console.
And of course, we know a little bit about Assetto Corsa because we had a race with Vroom, the new Vroom Sim initiative. I won't say too much about it because there's more information coming soon. But yeah, we were involved, of course, with Assetto Corsa and running this as a trial in Italy the week before. So it's exciting stuff, very exciting.
Yeah, correct. The name is a very Italian name because we wanted to give a print of Italian style to our simulation.
Yeah.
And Assetto Corsa could be translated as a race stream, actually. That is a name used also from some other companies, including Abarth, to refer to cars, to road cars and stock cars that are ready for the track as soon as they leave the dealer. This is a proper Assetto Corsa car, like could be any Lotus, for example. And we want to bring the same style and philosophy also in our game. Okay,
so it's actually, in a sense, it's the beginning of using beautiful road cars, fast cars, but turning them into race cars now, I guess, is what you're doing.
Yes, but we believe that also the road cars that are designed for the track, like it be also not just a Porsche, but also a lot of Mazda, Lotus and Toyotas can be very funny on the track. So yeah, we like to push that kind of philosophy in the products we make. Of course, for example, Competizione is dedicated to the GT series from SRO, so it's a proper racing video game, but people really love a lot not only Competizione but also the first Assetto Corsa, because they can drive actually any kind of cars, from the very old Fiat 500 to the latest hypercar from Ferrari or Porsche.
Wow. So if they're into historics or different cars, they can choose all these cars through this software, this program, or games, I guess.
In Assetto Corsa 1, in Assetto Corsa 1 we have almost 180 cars.
Wow.
That complete any possible kind of road and racing series, so that you can get a supercar, an average car, and just put it on the track and having fun.
Wow, sounds great. What about your own passion for cars? Tell us a little bit about that. How did that sort of develop for you? Because obviously you must have this in your blood. Otherwise, why would you be doing this? And of course, I'm sure there is a story to that.
Well, it was easy. My father was a taxi driver in Rome, and he brought me. He was used to bring me with him when he worked on the car or brought it to the mechanic. And my brother, he's far older than me, was studying for the driving license when I was 6. So I spent hours on the same books about road mechanics and things like this. So actually, I always loved anything that can move, from cars, planes, trains, both with a special passion for cars and motorbikes. So racing video games led me to drive far before I had the age for the driving license. That's how my passion for virtual motorsport has grown as well.
And what about karting? Was there any, you know, sort of significance of karting in your upbringing?
Actually, I would like to be involved in the karting world when I was a kid, but sadly it didn't happen. So I purchased my first go-kart when I was 28, I think. I wanted it badly, but I had at the time a very ridiculous budget. So I shared it with a friend of mine that was broke as well, like me.
Yeah.
And I learned a very important lesson. The less you spend, the more you spread. I mean, you spread parts and pieces on the track of the car. So after 2 years spending the afternoon, the Saturday afternoon working on the car, waking up at 6 in the morning on Sunday, bringing all the stuff on the track, making the setups and everything ready to go. And then you go and in 30 minutes you broke something. After 2 years of that, I just gave up and I moved to the motorbike racing. That was the only small expensive thing that put me in terms of stamina and excitement, the same kind of excitement you can get on karting that is just brilliant. But it was at least at that time far less demanding in preparation and logistics, at least for me. But I still have some very nice memories about the time I spent on the kart, except when we broken the gearbox or any other stuff in that.
Yeah, there's lots more good memories, I think. What about your platform? When you think about, you know, Assetto Corsa, is there the opportunity for karting enthusiasts to sort of get involved with that? Like, what does it offer karters?
Well, in terms of karting in Assetto Corsa, we don't have proper kart content because they have a very specific dynamics and behavior. And they need very specific physics because, for example, you use the tires also as suspensions because you don't have performance suspension for the car, and you have also the chassis torque and things like this. And since the virtual kart racing is particularly interesting for a niche of users, it would have been too demanding for us to develop a technology in terms of physics that could manage properly, because what we do in virtually is a proper racing simulation. Would have been too challenging to develop a same technology that can manage karting and other kind of vehicles. So, for example, there is this simulation that is called KartCraft. That is made by an Australian studio. I met them a few years ago. And they are very, very keen to develop a racing simulation dedicated only on karting that can be very effective. And very recently they have been acquired from a very important company that we believe that as fans that they will get also the funds they need to improve the game even more, because they are a very little and independent studio. And I can tell you that it's quite challenging to work in this business if you are so little. And they already did something that is quite effective. I think that, at least personally, I never played a better simulation for karting than KartCraft. It gave me, I can tell you the same feeling, because karting is so physical when you are sitting on the car. So it's very difficult, different even if you compare it with any sports car. I have the privilege to drive a very important and powerful cars on the track, including race cars. But anything can go closer, better than a Formula One, to the feeling and the emotions you can get onto karting. So
and of course, a lot of drivers actually use karting. Not only through the winter, but they use it just for fitness, and you know, they love that.
Absolutely.
The purest form of motorsport, a lot of people refer to this as, but it's interesting when you say it's quite complicated, and it sounds complex to set it up, in a simulation game, and yet car racing has been, or motorsport has been on sim racing for a long time as well. What about, you know, as far as the first simulator, when you first developed this, you know, how did this come about? Tell me the story there. How did this come about with the first simulator? Because this, going from real to simulation, you had this idea, obviously something must have sparked you to say, I'm going to do this.
Well, the first one we developed was called Netcar Pro, and we started from a freeware version of the software that Stefano created in his spare time, because we were a huge car enthusiast, and we wanted to produce something also in the virtual world that could be very effective, as close as possible to the real counterpart. And at that time, there were not so many games that would be able to give you the same feelings and environment of a real car. So we arranged this freeware in a way that it was purchasable, and eventually we started to use it to cooperate also as consultants with some motorsport teams, including a Formula One team at the time. And after a few years, we catch the attention of Albert before and Ferrari then, since the technical and simulation value we achieved through our software was very good at that time. And even if at the time the game or the product was not so polished at the level you can expect from a video game, but as a simulation, the base software was very good. And eventually we taken care also about the other aspect of the product in order to produce something that was acceptable also from a generic video gamer. That is one of the key of the success of Assetto Corsa.
Wow. Okay. So that brings me to another question. Vroom Magazine are aiming to introduce an initiative called Vroom Sim, which you know a little bit about. What's your idea about taking the real racer and matching them up and getting them to try the sim games and bringing the sim racer onto the real track? Because obviously that was the prize also for the race last week in Italy that they ran. What's your view?
Well, it's something that I handed to see so badly years ago, because we struggled for years to let people to understand that a virtual simulation, is not the real car, but it's not like just playing with a PlayStation, you know. No. By this point of view, I think that last year proved that we can get a real good connection between real and virtual motorsport, because today we have no doubts anymore that the most talented sim racers have also the skills to be very competitive and good drivers also on the real track. And on the other side, I believe that professional drivers who are landing on virtual motorsport for entertainment, for training, and for esport can bring the younger generations that kind of depth we need to feed and prepare the youngers and the new millennials to the real motorsport, because this is something we have this gap today of the new generation that struggle to fit in the real motorsport differently like it was in the past, that we need to do something. And I think that the virtual motorsport can be a very good media that can keep in connection the real drivers and the real association with the new audience.
Of course, a lot of people use and teams use simulators now for training, as we know, like real drivers in karting and in cars. Some people say there's a point where maybe it's more useful to learn the track, to understand, you know, the layout and things like this. But of course, what I've actually experienced over the last year because of COVID and the lockdown was I was supporting, you know, an online sim challenge, and it was mostly karters, but at the top, of course, there were the really good sim drivers and gamers, I guess you call them. They were very fast, but some of the karters were training so hard just to qualify for this. I think there were like over 400 drivers, and they really had to train hard. They were so disappointed when they didn't make the final. But of course, in the end, I remember the guy that was on pole, Johnny Gwindy, he actually went on to win a Skip Barber drive, and he won the series in the real car. So that sort of was my introduction to saying, okay, well, can one of these sim gamers or racers go and drive the car and so on? Interesting story though, how they can cross over from one to the other, and what it must be like. Of course, the reality is when it rains, you get wet, and when you're sitting at home in your lounge room, you don't. So of course, when the conditions change,
it's correct.
You know, it's real.
Yeah, if you think that, because the point is that if you play FIFA or any other soccer or sport game on the computer or console, you're actually using a gamepad or another controller, another device, but you are just sitting on your living room using a gamepad. When you play or you drive with a racing game, of course you can do it with a gamepad, but if you have a proper steering wheel and pedal support, you need to drive exactly like the real drivers, because you need to be reactive on the steering wheels, on the pedals, exactly like the real ones. And this can be a very effective way to train himself in order to be more effective, more constant, because constancy is even more important than being fast and stop. So,
although I don't see many with the helmet on,
we saw that.
I don't see many sim racers with the helmet on.
Because this is, I think that is. I think that they do it to be even more focused and to get even less distractions. You know that the real drivers always say that when you put the visor on, you start to stay and to behave in a world apart.
Yes, in that kind of zone.
Yeah, exactly. You go just in the tunnel. And I think that for some sim racers is the same. And then we have others that maybe they use a very cheap steering wheel, and they can be even more faster than people with a setup of €2,000. But this is because they are very talented drivers, like they would be in the real world. So
and of course at Vroom magazine, you know, we try and be inclusive. When I say we, the journalists, the contributors, I'm one of the contributors to the magazine. And this is something I was also wondering. It's, you know, a topic that involves a lot of people in motorsport now and in different sports. What do you think? Is sim racing inclusive enough? Do you think, you know, there's a point where those guys that are really talented and really good kind of a little, I suppose it's the same if you join a normal race or a kart race, and there's like the 6 times champion on the front row of the grid, and you're thinking, how on earth am I ever going to catch him? Is it, you know, is it something that you think there is that same reality in simulation racing?
Well, I think that we still have to break the wall of skepticism of the older motorsport generations that still look at sim racing like, you know, it's just a video game, and real motorsport is a different thing. Because like in real motorsport, drivers need to train and to fit themselves at the very best possible level. And only very few move in the real world from amateur to professionalism.
Yes.
Virtual motorsport isn't different from this point of view, because the faster drivers in the world more or less are always the same, because they are very talented drivers, like is in the real motorsport. When eventually the best sim racer went on the real track, they proved to be faster and effective as well as the real professionals. So I think that last year we proved really well that we can create a very good connection between real and virtual motorsport. And in fact, this year, for the first time, SRO with the GT series, they have a new rules in the championship. Where if you can compete and can win in the virtual eSport official season of the SRO, you can gain points and achievements that you can use also in the real races, because they understand how it's important today to use the virtual motorsport, not just to train, but also to bring more interest and people on the real motorsport, because they struggle a bit to widen their audience.
And of course, there are drivers, or, you know, even just hobby drivers, I guess we can call them, who perhaps have tried this racing for the first time on Assetto Corsa. And of course, it can be a little bit daunting when suddenly, you know, there's all these things to set up. But I understand too, you have this multiplayer sort of functionality where you can match up and you can look for events and races, maybe for more novice drivers or hobby drivers, not necessarily going against these guys that are really, really good. So you've got some chance at least to qualify and be part of it.
Well,
but I think maybe this is a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. In fact, in Assetto Corsa Competizione, we have this ranking system.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can select to match only with drivers of your same skill and performance, so that you can start the race without the feeling that whatever you do, you will arrive last. Because
That's
for
good.
example, when I had my very first online race, and it was more than 20 years ago, I believed that I was fast. Because when I raced offline, having my training and so on, I believed that I was fast. The very first online race I had, I discovered that I wasn't fast at all. Even if eventually I finished the race third, but because we had a huge accident during the race. So eventually, being constant, I've been able to finish third. It's very important to match the same level of people in the same kind of races, because otherwise it could be frustrating. Imagine the situation where you start and you get a gap of 1 or 2 seconds at each lap from the first in the row. You could just quit the race because there is no chance for you to go ahead. And it would be a pity. So we have also this kind of system that can help you to grow while you compete. Because
it's a great idea.
Yeah, because competing only offline, you can become more fast, because you can be more precise in the braking corners, in the cornering, and so on. But there are a lot of different situations while you are racing that you need to compete in a different way, that you can improve your style only competing with others, not just playing alone.
That's right.
So if
that's like racecraft, isn't it? I guess racecraft is different to testing. So
with racecraft you can also play multiplayer right now, so that you can also compete with other guys. Of course, in the karting, everything happens very, very quickly. So you need to be very reactive in the way how you act on the steering wheels, but it's quite cool.
Of course, a lot of kart drivers, you know, getting back to your platform, is there a place for kart enthusiasts? A lot of them love to go and drive on, you know, famous circuits. And even if they don't have that possibility to drive a real race car or a car, you know, that might be their dream car, even if it's a historic or a modern day car. They love to still drive on famous circuits, you know, like Monza or Nürburgring or different places like this. So, you know, I think this is great, which brings me to the next question before we finish and I'll let you go. When you think about the fact that last year, motorsport for us and in karting was really, you know, impacted quite heavily, quite strongly by the whole situation around the world, the global situation. Do you think that when we saw people, you know, suddenly Amazon, I guess, was so busy ordering steering wheels and simulators and setting everything up at home, not just sitting in front of the PC playing games, but instead it got serious. Races were really replaced, you know, real races were replaced with sim races. People were racing against real race drivers. Do you think if and when the championships start to open up now in motorsport, this is going to impact again your industry? Because you benefited really from this, you know, and I'm not, you know, as much as we don't want the pandemic and we're all praying for this to go away or get better, I'm sure that this is why, I guess, you're, you know, now so busy, your team, and why you're developing and now you're working on, like you said, with SRO, the next, the 2021 series with the GT3. But do you think it's going to be sustainable? Do you think that a portion, or what percentage? I mean, this is only a hypothetical kind of question, I guess, to say, what do you think?
Well, I'm not worried because we saw that a lot of people, for the first time last year, they approached to the virtual motorsport. And while for many of them, as you can imagine, it was just something that they did because they can't do anything else. So eventually, when we finally will be able to leave and just to exit and leave our houses, and possibly a lot of people will not want to see a PC anymore for years. There are a lot of other people that they just fall in love with the racing simulator as well as for the flight simulator, for example. Because the point is that at the beginning they believed that they are very challenging to understand what you need, steering wheel, pedal set, computer, which game, and so on. But when they start, they eventually understand that is simpler than they believe. And when you fall in love with that, you don't leave that. Even if they will spend, and I hope they will spend much more time outside than inside, including me. I believe that a lot of them understood for the first time the additional value of sim racing game and simulations. So they will continue to grow both the things. The real motorsport, they will go back on the track as spectators, as drivers, but they will start also to use the simulator to train and also to get fun when outside is snowing or is raining, or you don't live close to the North Life, but you would like to drive in that, but you live in Australia, so that you can get the North Life in virtual and having a lot of fun as well.
Well, I've seen a lot of people racing at Bathurst lately, and also last year, the W Series. I was following this with some of the girls, the karters, racing W Series, and of course it was cancelled, so they ended up racing in Bathurst, you know, in the F3 car, which was the most bizarre thing. But anything's possible. Any tips before we finish? Any tips for people that are not sure, or anything you can say, this is what you can expect when you come to Assetto Corsa and try the games?
Well, there are a lot of things we could say, but I would say whatever is your favorite game. If Assetto Corsa is another, when you go online, be competitive, but be fair. This is the first tip, because you can have much more fun if you are fair, even if you don't arrive first, because it doesn't make any sense to ruin the race to other people. And just be humble to improve your style. So that you, as soon as you improve, you can be faster and you can get much more fun.
And can we convince you to come karting?
Sorry,
it's the same. It's the same with karting.
It's the same. Yeah. I saw in the past a lot of fights, especially between parents with the children in on the karting tracks, because they are even more competitive than their kids. But if you look at the thing like something that you want to use to have fun, then the rest will come.
Okay. Well, as long as there's no fights.
If you are, and if you are the next Hamilton, later before you discover it. So be patient. Yes,
maybe. Who knows? But this has been fun and it's been interesting. And of course, I know we should get you back on the kart track. You know, one of these days you should come and visit. I know you're down there close to Rome, so I'm sure there's some races on where you can come jump in a kart.
Well, there was a very nice kart that was the Pista d'Oro, very close to Rome. That it was the closest kart track to Rome, but he's go bankrupt some years ago. It was, by the way, the karting track where Fisichella trained when he was younger. So it's a very famous track, but now is not a kart track anymore. And there is another that is Artena and another in Viterbo that are more or less 1 hour far from Rome. So for the Romans, it's not so close to get there, but there are definitely very nice tracks. So we will take a chance to go there when we'll be able to do that.
I've actually been to Viterbo, and I remember when I landed in Rome, I rented a Fiat 500, which was really cool. And drove out to Viterbo. It was really nice. But of course, you are not so far from Vallelunga, which is where they obviously race formula cars and all different things, the GT and the FIA Motorsport Games were there, as we were talking earlier in 2019. So, but not so far away. However, I've got to let you go because I know you're very busy, and it's been great to have you to share a little bit about your very, very successful business.
It was my pleasure.
Simulation.
It was my pleasure.
And it's a pleasure to have you at Talking for Jen. And of course, we're going to see, I hope, see a little bit more of you in the near future in the magazine. So, thank you very much, Marco. And it's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.